Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show, the mobile university for entrepreneurs. This is a business podcast for educators who want to turn what they know into what they are known for. Now, today, y'all, I'm feeling like Tay Diggs in the Brown Sugar. If you ever saw the movie when he walked into the radio station and walking down the hallway saying, "Today is a big day for Brown Sugar Records," that's how I feel today is a big day for the Dr. Will Show because the guest we have for you, boy, y'all better get y'all notes together because you've seen this guest on Earn Your Leisure. You've seen this guest on Social Proof. You've seen this guest on Afropolitan and many others, as well as at Invest Fest. Y'all, we're going to have a good time today. So, for those who be listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeart Radio, Simply Access, or Spotify, and Audible, today's guest is none other than Amy Araefo, and we are definitely going to be talking about business development, AI, owning what you create and the distribution channels for that. And y'all, I'm just so excited. I feel so blessed. So for those who be listening, Amy, will you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Dr. Will. I don't need to introduce myself after you just said that. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I am so happy to be here. Thank you for having me, first and foremost. Thank you for the work you're doing for your platform. And let me say, even before introducing myself, as somebody who works very closely and represents podcasters and people in the media space, I know what it takes to do what you're doing. I'm behind the scenes and doing these deals. So hats off to you. Congratulations on having a platform that is on all those platforms that you mentioned, right? Your iHeart, your Spotify, your Apple. So I wanted to congratulate you because that's very intimate into the heart of what I do day to day to represent creatives like you. So hats off. Let's clap for you. I know part of my intro is celebrating the genius creatives that are out there and operating at a high level. So that's a little bit about me, you all. I'm Amy Araefo, and thank you for saying my last name so perfectly. So I always start with an origin story because that shapes a lot of what I do and how I've always been curious and how I meet people. I mean, why I became a lawyer. So I am from Raleigh, North Carolina originally, but I'm first generation American. Both of my parents are from Nigeria, came to America as immigrants. And that is important because it naturally made me culturally curious as a child. Because I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I sound like this. I sound like I'm from the South because I'm from the South, but I grew up with parents who had a beautiful accent that was different from the majority of the people I grew up with. People often ask, like, "Oh, you sound like you're from the South." I was like, because I'm from the South. Like, I was born and raised in Raleigh. So even though I lived in a household with parents who were Nigerian immigrants and could have assimilated if they wanted to, but chose to keep their beautiful accents, which I love, it naturally made me curious. So, Dr. Will, what does that have to do? That has to do with I'm the youngest of 5 kids. So, in order to get things out of life, and I have a great bunch of siblings, by the way. So when they hear this, they don't think I'm calling them bullies because I'm not. I love them, but obviously, any youngest children you all run into, we are big about being our own trailblazers, making our own identity because you're always somebody's sibling. I'm the younger sister of, right? So that was great. But always in me, I asked questions. I was curious. My parents were always like, leave that one alone. Like I followed rules, but I also asked why. Like not to authority, but like, and if I did, I would say, with all due respect, can I ask why? Something like that. Like, so because of that, Will, that is what happens as a lawyer. We're problem solvers. We got to get to the bottom of things. So I had to tell you that story to tell you origin stories. I was allowed to ask questions. Obviously, there's structure. Anybody that knows Nigerians knows respect is paramount. It's paramount in the Black community, but specifically in a lot of our African cultures and more narrowly Nigerian. So there's reverence. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. No, ma'am. But there was also a level of creativity and structure with the ability to ask questions. So I didn't know. I don't have any lawyers in my family. So my parents were breeding me to be like, okay, ask, just ask questions. You may or may not like the answer, but you'll get like, you don't get answers to questions you don't ask. So that was a genesis of me scratching my head to say, okay, this lawyer thing I've heard about, it sounds like it'll be interesting because at the core of what I do is advocacy. Even how I started this interview with celebrating the artists in my group, in my ministry, as I call it, our creatives. And that came from me being a creative. I was a trained dancer for 16 years. I thought I was going to pursue that professionally. God had other plans. And I, at 18, did not, I tell this story very publicly now. I used to be like ashamed and hurt. But that had to happen at 18. I didn't get into the dance programs for college because if I had it my way, I would have been a dance major. I would have gone off in the world, done that for roughly 3 to 5 years because your body will give you but so much. And then I was going to go off and do this law thing, but God had other plans. And I did not get into those programs. I now see because I need to serve people like you and your audience. So that is why I think I have a unique vantage point as an entertainment attorney. I am an artist. I'm a creative first who happens to be a lawyer. So I come in with a mind of knowing how to speak the language, knowing that you all are God given vessels, and knowing how to protect and monetize that. So I know that was an earful, but that's the gist of what I do day to day.
That's all right. Now,
Mhm.
when you are an educator, you are doing a lot of things, and we may not even think about the work as being special or wow, we can actually turn this into a business. How do you go from I know this stuff to I can turn this into a product, service, or offer? And what is the first step in understanding how to monetize and become an asset?
I love this question. So first and foremost, let me celebrate educators. You all, without you all, we can't do a lot in society, right? Like implementing it, starting that, because I think sometimes we got to understand the value that we're adding. Everything I always start with is value add. Your value add as educators is that you are literally planting the seed for somebody or the students or the community that you are educating to go do that next thing because everything starts with education. And hats off to you. I'm an adjunct professor at Kennesaw State University. So I've been for almost 6 years. So I understand. So those of you all full time, God bless, but I know what it means to educate and have that impact. So first is understanding your value and who you're going to reach and your audience. So let's say, for example, if you're a math teacher, or in my instance, I teach music law and like music publishing and copyright and just the essence of ownership within the entertainment industry. So it is talking to my anywhere from 18 to 22-year olds, or sometimes it's somebody's at what we call a non-traditional student, as you know. Maybe they've left and come back. They're a little older. And a little older could be 2 years older than the average age, but they'll come back, but they also have a certificate in that program to learn. This is important, Dr. Will. It may sound like I'm rambling. I'm not, because you understand I know my audience. If you're talking to somebody, you're talking about stuff that's not relevant to them, they're not listening. They zoned out. So a lot of educators have to know your audience. You may say, "Oh, I've taught this for 15 years." But if you're teaching it the same way, you all times have changed. So first and foremost, we have to be cognizant of our time. Be the best at what you do in your lane. If you teach math, teach it in a way that nobody else, I know we're in the States, so I'll speak to the States, and then globally teaches it. But be that person. So I think that's first for educators to know how special their role is and to know your audience and to evolve with the times. Because I know, no disrespect to my law school professors. If y'all hear this, I love y'all, but no disrespect. But it was great. But as a creative, I sometimes felt like I was dying on the inside because I'm a creative in law school. And anybody who knows anything about law school knows that it's very clinical and theoretical. And I'm okay with structure, but I need to color outside of the lines too. So, educators, provide that for people like me. You have creatives in your class that need audio visual learning. Some people are audio learners. Like, just don't be rigid. So, all that you may say first and foremost is make your audience want to listen to you. And when they listen to you, they'll absorb what you're saying. And then they're going to be your biggest advocates to send more people. That's how you get people to buy things from you, Will.
Mm.
That.
What are some examples that educators that create that are both scalable and protectable?
Curriculum. You all check your disclaimer. Check your as a lawyer, check your respective employment contracts or whatever the case may be. Ownership of IP is very important. IP, you all's intellectual property. You'll hear me say that because who wants to say intellectual property all the time, right? So IP. So and there are four types. Let's break that down. There's copyrights, trademarks, patents, and trade secrets. So you want to ask that question because you have to be clear if you're coming under the auspices of an employee versus a consultant. Or sometimes in both instances, the entity that's retaining you or hiring you could own, and that's called work for hire language. Look out for that. So if you've never heard that, it may come in, they may label as work for hire, or it may actually have that language in the contract. But make sure that you are separating what you create as an individual or an entity outside of your role as an educator in a school system and an institution versus what belongs to them as a result of them giving you a paycheck. That's incredibly important because if you create something during that window of time and you read a contract and they have rights to that IP, guess what? Who owns it, Dr. Will?
They do.
There we go. And that's unfortunately what I see a lot of times. So making sure that you're clear on when and what you create, who owns it, how own it, add it, asking that question in interviews, you all, they're gonna be like, oh, you've either been talking to a lawyer or you've been reading up on something because they're gonna know. Ask about intellectual property because I want you all listening. All of you all who are listening to this interview should be in the place of scaling, be becoming a consultant, create a curriculum, the question you ask. Any kind of workbook you create, operating services as a consultant. These are all things you can monetize. And nothing's wrong with a 9 to 5. We all need to make some steady money. It's great. But if you've been called to more than that entrepreneurship, you have to start leveraging your intellectual property, which comes from here, and protecting that. And that's how you do that by knowing who owns what.
Mm. I know an educator who was contacted by an institution to create a course and they enjoyed that check, but then they later found out that that institution had been delivering that course year after year after year, and she never saw another dime from that first check she received. Can you talk about licensing and getting paid multiple times for one asset?
That's my favorite type of money, Dr. Will. Like you see, I felt that in my spirit, right? So it's like it is. So yes, let me break that down in two ways. So in a copyright, you all, and a copyright is the tangible expression of an idea. We have thousands of thoughts a day. I think there's an actual stat. You are the doctor and educator, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Something like 35,000 thoughts or something we have a day, the average person. For you and I, Dr. Will, I can say with the amount of decisions we have as entrepreneurs, add that, that's probably 45,000 thoughts in a day, the amount of decisions we have to make when your eyes open in the morning. So I say that to say you need to know there are two ways that you own a copyright, the stuff that comes out of your brain. It's tangible when you write down on a sheet of paper, that's a course, you type it, or you record a video, a videographer records it, or it's a copyright, a song that's written. And before I answer and say that two part, I need to say something that I said it on the Social Proof podcast, as a matter of fact. And I didn't know it took off because a lot of people didn't know you all, the person who takes the picture or records the video, they own the copyright, generally speaking, under general copyright law. The only way you transfer is by one of the two ways I'm about to say, by an outright sale, which is called that work for hire. Hey, Dr. Will, I would give you $1,000 to trade off for this short 3-page script you gave me, whatever the case may be. Outright buy. In most cases, people try to incentivize it with a price, which your fellow educator, colleague, and friend probably was like, oh, nice check. But you all, I like to tell you where if they did that, there's more where that came from, which unfortunately, they're not the only person who learned that lesson, but we learn lessons. And once we learn them, we'll be more evolved. So outright sell, which is what happened to that person, or you do a license, which is what made both of us smile. And that means, hey, for a 2-year term, I'll give you X amount of money and then reverts back to me in 2 years. Now, also, I want to break that down, Dr. Will. There are different types. There's an exclusive license and a non-exclusive. So exclusivity, you all, I like to say if people want to carve things out and they want to keep it to themselves, they got to pay more. That's the easiest way to say that. So if somebody wants exclusivity, and then it gets more narrow, Dr. Will, as you're doing territory, how many people it's going to reach, how long the term. You see how the more they ask from my clients, the more money I'm asking. Like it makes it easier. It's almost like a checklist. It's like, oh, you want to use the universe. My job is to get clients the most amount of money for the least amount of commitment. And the person presenting them the contract is trying to get the most amount of commitment for the least amount of money. You see the inherent negotiation in the dance that's going to go on. So I'm not trying to give everything up for the universe and the world for 2 years. I'm trying to say, hey, we're in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, we're not going to make it so impressive. Okay, you can have it in the state of Georgia. Am I like, oh, we need it more than that? This curriculum is being used in the US. Okay, the price now went from 10,000 to 25. You see where I'm going? I had to give those examples because it's based on territory. You're reaching more people. They're going to monetize it more. It's going to get in front of more people. And then you're creating more leverage to renegotiate. We don't want you in long contracts. I want your licenses in and out as much as possible because that means we have more leverage to renegotiate higher rates for you each time. If you're in a 5-year deal, I can't renegotiate anything. You agreed to those terms for 5 years. But if we're trying to get you in, and I understand some people need more than a year. I get it. So we're generally speaking, you all, again, you're going to hear me give a lot of disclaimers because lawyers have to do this. This is not legal advice. This is example. I'm like, we have to do that, protect our license, by the way. But I'm just giving examples. It is, I generally like to do no more than 2-year terms unless it makes so much sense. And this is on a case by case basis with clients. Because guess what it does? It gives us an opportunity to relicense, renegotiate, re up. We like because that means more money generally. So that license, and so educators knowing, please, if you can, try to license your content, unless there's always a caveat. The payday is so sweet, do your thing. That's all I like to tell people. There's no right or wrong way. It's everybody has a number and the best way. And that doesn't mean you're selling your soul. It just means it's like you're gonna pay me that much. So somebody's gonna give you a multi-million dollar deal up front. Yes, they're gonna make more than that on the back end. But that may make sense for you where you are in your life right then. And you may be very pleased because now you have the time and the freedom to go create more of that to make more millions. Does that make sense? So these are the kinds of conversations I have with clients and people in deals. So every time there's a work for hire, we don't like words perpetuity. That means forever and ever, amen. That's what I tell people. But unless I give a caveat, that is something that is such a sweet deal for your scenario that you're like, I'll reassess what I thought. There's always an exception to the rule, but the general rule is we want to license.
Wow. Now, I know some educators out there who are getting, $20,000 for an hour keynote. They're getting a lot of money to deliver these workshops. What is the risk of building a business without owning your intellectual property and as well as the trademark?
I know I sound dramatic, but it's dangerous and it will force that person to continue to look over their shoulders, whether they know it or not, because I like to say, you often can't control what you don't own. So I want to give, and I may be jumping the gun with this, everybody who offers a service or product that's out in commerce, which means you are selling it to somebody outside of yourself. And usually an indicator is if you have a landing page or website or something where it can reach people in the world. You need a trademark. It is dangerous, Dr. Will, to do business without a trademark. A trademark, you all, is your brand name or source identifier, whatever you want to call it. But it lets people know what you do, the name of the services or products you're offering, for example. So, like I use my platform, Creative Passport is a platform. So under there, we educate creatives, professionals, folks in the space who want to scale and monetize and protect their brand. Boom. And another thing, you need to tell people in the elevator pitch what you do. Don't give a long story, like tell them that so they can work. And I think that's important to say because people are like, time is ticking for everyone. It's not that what you do is not important, but saying that, then they're gonna be like, tell me more. But imagine if you told somebody a genius concept and you didn't trademark that. I can freely say Creative Passport because if you go on the United States Patent and Trademark website, guess what? I trademarked it. You see the difference is like versus like, oh, I don't want to tell anybody because I haven't. You live in fear, Dr. Will. That's what happens. And some people don't even know that they should be living in fear, but in a healthy way, they are. They're living in business fear because the worst phone calls I hate getting, because I am not a litigator. You on called was a transactional attorney, which means I like to help you make money and usher in what the word says, transactions. So business deals and opportunities, I review and negotiate contracts. My firm helps with protecting and monetize. We want to help you make money. I do not help you sue people. I have to call friends and they're expensive. So now you got to pay me, you got to pay them because now we got to get you out of a mess and you still got to come back and do what I needed you to do to be protected. I don't like that. It does not make me feel good when I get those phone calls because I know what I have to do. And when I tell the people, you can actually hear it in their voice. So all that's to tell you, it is dangerous to do business without setting up an entity, whether you choose to do a limited liability company, you all, and then corporation. You may ask the next question. I know that most people say, which one should I do, Amy? I cannot tell you that. I am not a CPA or an accountant or a tax strategist. Go to one of those people to tell you which entity is best for you. I can't speak to tax implications. I could speak to legal liability. I could tell you you're protected under any entity from personal assets. Doing business as an individual is dangerous. God forbid of a lawsuit, they can come after that house you work really hard for, that car you love to drive, and any of your personal assets versus if you render your services under a company, God forbid of a lawsuit, they're limited to the assets of the company. I know that was an earful, but it's dangerous to not have an entity that you're operating. Like my law firm right now happens to be called my name. Amy Araefo, PC stands for professional corporation. So I'm an incorporated company. I'm a corporation. And there's another caveat. This is why I had to go to a CPA. As a licensed legal professional in Georgia, you have the right to be called a professional corporation. Sometimes you may see dentists, other licensed professionals. That PC, I just taught you all something that now means every state is different. Some people allow different entities. So because I am a licensed legal professional, I can operate as a professional corporation and I'm an S corp. I can't tell you any more than that because I'm not an accountant, but I can tell you that I know my structure. But you see the difference. You need to know enough to be dangerous. Although I'm not an accountant, I could tell you the structure of my business. I could tell you this pass through. Like I have to pay myself. I'm an employee of my company. Plus, I have to file a separate tax return as an individual because I meet with my CPA. I had to learn enough. I am not an accountant, but I didn't know what's happening in my business. I challenge you all as educators. Don't dig your head in the sand and say, I did that the first couple of years of my business. I let them take care of it. Nope. You need to know enough about your business. As a lawyer, ask me why I'm going so hard in deal points. Ask me why you need to protect intellectual property because we're here to serve you and protect you, right? So, like, all these things are important. Set up your entity. I'm going to empower you all. Go do it yourself in most cases, unless you just, and I get in trouble sometimes with other lawyers, but I like for people to come to lawyers for the other stuff. You can figure out, on generally speaking, as the Secretary of State in your respective state. If you're in the US, by the way, I know people hear this globally, check your local jurisdiction. But if you're somewhere else in the world, but you will go there and set up the entity. For us in Georgia, it's usually the Secretary of State, and then you can set it up. You all, it shouldn't take you any more than 20 or 30 minutes. Go to irs.gov again if you're in the US. Set up an EIN number, it's your social security number for your business. Just like that, you have an entity, Dr. Will. Boom. Takes 30 minutes. And then go set up a bank account where you will be transacting business there. That is how you protect and create that veil. What they call it is a corporate veil. If you pierce it, you pierce it. I know I'm going down a caveat, but this is the biggest thing I see with people when they're starting a business. They either are operating as sole proprietors and exposing themselves to liability, or they've not set up the right entity for tax implications. I can't help them with that. They need to go to accountant, but we can set up the entity for them. But then they're like, oh my gosh, and it's all good till it's not good. Because then there's an issue arises, and then we find out that they're operating as a consultant under their own name. I do not hear my voice, you all. Hear Amy's voice. Do not enter into these contracts as an individual. So, like, if you don't hear anything else during this interview, do not enter contracts if you can avoid it as Amy Araefo. Now, it's tricky when somebody names their company their name, Amy Araefo PC, but that is an entity. Amy Araefo is a human being. Both are treated as living, breathing things. An entity is a living, breathing thing for tax purposes. But I, the human being that's talking to you right now, Amy Araefo, that's an individual. I don't have anything that's under Amy Araefo. Stuff is under Creative Passport. I have real estate as well. It's under another company. Like it's different stuff. Nothing's under me.
Mm.
Like-
All right. Hey, and I would say for a lot of educators, because I don't know if they are know about this or thinking about this, have done this, is to get insurance. And because when I first started out, I didn't know anything. I was just out in these streets getting this money, and then I had to fill out some paperwork with the university to come in and become a vendor. And they asked, "Do you have business insurance?" I was like, "Well, yes, I do," but I didn't have it. But I said yes, and then I just called up the insurance company that we have a home with and vehicle, and they said, we have a subsidiary that offers business insurance. And I said, well, sign me up because I really wasn't even thinking about I needed that in case I got sued, that I would have that protection.
Yes, yes. No, this, and I'm not gonna sit here and profess to know everything because I don't, right? We can only know what we know. But this is what I've learned by July of this year will be 14 years of having a company. You all, the reason I created a platform and I mentioned Creative Passport is I made enough mistakes for probably everybody who's listening to this podcast. So I made enough. So I want to streamline people not going through that. Very similar. It's different. I have to have malpractice insurance as a lawyer. I've had that. But there are other elements. I didn't know, Dr. Will, and I love that we're sort of going off on a tangent because business owners need to know these things. I didn't know to have an umbrella policy until a few years ago. But I do. The more you acquire, you have more to lose. Like even in a business, I started representing bigger clients. I'm like, oh, like you become a target to people. It's a real thing. And I think I'm just being transparent and candid here. I don't even think I've ever talked about this. You get some exclusive stuff. Like privately, I talk about it. But like I've had to get an umbrella policy, like stuff like that in insurance because like you'll hear me say phrases. Nobody cares till everybody cares. It's unfortunate. That's the world we live in. And then because of that, you can become a target. So we're not trying to scare you. We're just trying to prepare you. Like just be proactive. It's always cheaper and more cost effective, spiritually, mentally, financially, and physically to be proactive than it is to be reactive because you're frazzled, you're stressed versus us. Look how calmly we're talking. We're like, oh, as a matter of fact, that's a good idea. I get off this podcast and do this, right? You're calmer. Your nervous system is calm. When you're frantic, you're not at your best. Nobody, I don't care how smart you are. And educators, you are incredibly smart people. But when you're frazzled, we can all agree you're not at your best. So make decisions when you're calm. Make them by listening. You can never learn too much information. This podcast is a phenomenal resource. Listen, all I do is, and I don't know, it sounds like you represent podcasts, but all I do is listen to podcasts. Like literally, like you all, our brains have to be stimulating. You're affecting a lot of people, especially these are my educators. Like be cognizant of what you're listening to, who's coaching you, what programs you're in, because you're now using that from your mouth to teach however many of the masses you're reaching. So that's very important for us to remember that. Have some fun, do some things, but like know what you're there to do and then have your fort protected so that you can go to sleep at night and that's not keeping you awake. Like, do I have an entity? Oh, I need to set up an LLC for this deal before this deal starts. No, have it set up. So when the checks are cleared, tell them, where do I send the check? Cut the check LLC. That's the name of my company or whatever you want to call it, right? If you can't tell by now, I don't take myself too seriously. So I like to have fun. So it's like, honestly, whatever you name your company, do that. But just put it under a company, you all. I've seen that happen way too many times. And then that can affect you tax implication wise. Again, I can't speak to that. But a CPA will be like, because you can't write off certain expenses if you're not a company.
I hear you. My CPA is the friend because they have told us these are deductions you can have, whether it's my home office or
Yep, absolutely.
tech that I buy, conferences I attend, and just that type of education going in, knowing that when I make a purchase or when I'm doing this, I know, okay, this will be a deduction
Absolutely.
for me going in. So it's been really awesome. And then, we joke about them. I put them in my book because I was like, yo, they really educated me because I told educators, of course, when I talk about corporate structure, but I also say, make sure you go to a CPA because they can tell you, as you mentioned, the tax implication of which one would be best for you moving forward. You are well known for talking about never building on land you don't own. Like stay away from building your brand, your business, your empire on rented land. So now we're talking about ownership, distribution, and those things. Break that down for us. What does that actually mean? And where are some platforms that educators are actually building on rented land?
Oh gosh, I told you these questions. I love them. First of all, so I would say yes, and thank you for saying that because that means a lot to me. I'm big about ownership for professionals and creatives. So it is first back to that example I gave, knowing that you're giving something away. That's usually the first issue. A lot of people don't know because they would not knowingly give it away. They're like, "Oh, you're an educator and you're incredibly brilliant. Brilliant. We've articulated that. But let a lawyer be a lawyer. Like that's the first piece of advice I'll give. When you get agreements, please budget putting a lawyer out. It will be some of the best money you spend. I'm not saying it to sound self-serving. I'm saying it because that's often when I hear people like, I just gave something away. I was like, we could have told you in provision 5. Like, that's our job, like to literally, like for me, I've been practicing for like 15 years. Like, I'm not saying I've seen everything, but I've seen a lot. Like I've seen, enough and I read contracts. I deal with this. So it's whether it's me or somebody else, get that in front, especially the bigger the deal or the opportunity. You do not want to do it alone. You're not alone. So that's the first thing. That's when that often happens, Dr. Wills. Like somebody thought they're signing the license and they signed away because that word, all it takes is perpetuity in reference to ownership being listed once. And that's it. Short of you showing that, honestly, you all, it's hard to get out of enforced contracts means both parties signed it, right? So unless you show that there's mental incapacity, the person was underage or they were in duress. Very difficult to show duress. It's happened, but it's very, very difficult to show that somebody, God forbid, literally was threatening your life to sign it. Mental instability. Of course, nobody wants to be in that instance, right? You don't want to have an extreme instance like that. And then obviously a minority age, minority in the sense of, I'm using a legal term of art. That's what they call it for somebody younger than, in some states, it may be 17, 16, 18. Check your states in the US or again, your local jurisdiction is different. So whatever that age is, if they're younger than that, technically the contract's not enforceable because they're saying you may have intimidated that child in the eyes of the law to sign it. So you all, 3 very limited ways that you can get a contract voided generally, unless the person on the other side has such a big and kind heart to let you out. And that generally does not happen. So because of that, I don't want people getting into things they're not informed about. As long as you're informed, Dr. Will, or anybody's informed, make whatever decision is best for you. Oftentimes people are giving away things because they're not informed. They thought it's a license and it's a work for hire or given away in perpetuity, which means bye. What money you get there, you're never getting anything else again, no matter how much you cry and scream and kick. Or it is, okay, you gave it away. The example I gave when we were laughing about, like, you gave it away, but at least you're smiling all the way to the bank. If you're fine with that, cool. Don't ever let anybody pressure you into that. But generally speaking, the rented versus owned land means build your own IP. Comes out of here. It's tangible. Remember, tangible. Hear my voice. What's in your head can't be protected. It's what comes out of your head. You write it. You take a picture of it. You do something. You record it if you're a singer, and now it's out of your head, and the world can hear it, see it, touch it, feel it. You want to protect that. You want to get in the habit of filing copyrights, trademarks, and in some cases, patents. Patents protect inventions, like an actual, like a machine that creates sneakers or tennis shoes or whatever you call it, depending on where you are. So it is, you want to do that. And the fourth one is trade secrets. Trade secrets, you are not protected in an entity. For example, copyrights are protected under, again, just for my US folks, it's the US Copyright Office, and that website is www.copyright.gov. And if you're in the US again and you're doing a patent, you're filing a patent or trademark, that's United States Patent and Trademark Office, and that's www.uspto.gov. Here it's official. When you file federals, always a .gov. Don't let people scam you out of filing the wrong thing. Trade secrets don't have anywhere to be protected. They're protected in those contracts, Dr. Will. Those contracts that say those words that are hidden sometimes, that, like, by entering into this contract, you give us the right to your copyrights. They list it, Dr. Will. It's in there. But sometimes I read this stuff, I was like, I was right there. It was right there. In some cases, they're not even trying to hide it for people. Then you know what? Also, you've seen it because I know you signed a lot of good contracts in your life. I could just tell. Like, you know, it's at the bottom. Most people don't pay attention to it, but it says, I, I agree. Something I'm paraphrasing you all, but by entering this contract, I authorize that I have been offered legal counsel or legal counsel. You say you're not in your head because you sign it. Somebody, but I didn't get a lawyer to read it. When you signed that, you did. Whose fault is that? I'm not trying to sound rude. I'm just saying that's what happens. So all of that to say that is important first. Now, once we understand what we're giving away, understanding what land it lives on. I know you ask a question, but I always have to go to the background because this is how I see it happen all the time. Now that once you understand, like, oh, I'm not giving that away, not giving that course away, or if I am, let me make the price worth it to give it away, meaning outright sell. Borrowed land, you all, for example, I'm not out in any of these platforms. You just got to call it what it is. Borrowed land are all your social media platforms. You do not own them. Somebody else owns it. They have access to your data. They use it. So without, get myself in trouble, you know how I'm going with that. Social media, the various platforms, that's rented land. Ownership is what I did. Dr. Will's what you did. The Dr. Will Show. Mine is Creative Passport. Whatever your vehicle is, whatever community you build, you own that. Because guess what you have, Dr. Will? You have access to the data, the eyeballs who use it, their email addresses, their phone numbers, however you bring them in. It's lead gen and magnets. You have access to that. So if somebody kicked you off, for ease of example, of an Instagram or YouTube or whatever, guess what you still have? Data. And that is paramount. So that is what rented versus borrowed land, again, without getting myself in trouble. You all know most of us are doing things on rented land. Just tread lightly. That's all I'm saying. It could be mutually beneficial. Those platforms need us for data and we could use it for visibility. And I'll leave it there, right? Because sometimes these days, you say, I'm not afraid, you know this, I'm not afraid of saying things, but I also know if you call one out, then, I just got to say across the board, any social media you're using that does not, yeah, they may cut you a check for you, like views, and that's great, but you don't own it. If you cannot email them or call them and say, hey, can I get access to all your email addresses and phone numbers without them laughing you to scorn? The good rule of thumb is you don't own it.
Hmm. And can you speak to this piece of ownership where you are, let's say you write a book. Now it's cool to have them on these sites or at a bookstore where people can buy them. But this one large online retailer we know, and I know this as an author, they take a nice little cut
Yes.
per sale, which means that I just have to sell more books because
Yes.
they're taking too much money. Can you get into people then selling that book, whatever entity that would be on that site or other sites, on their own website where now they're controlling not only the distribution of it, but controlling the profits from it.
I love that, Dr. Will. Yes, if you all can, use as many of those platforms as you can. And Dr. Will, I'm letting the cat out of the bag right now. I'm going to be like you soon. I'm working on my first book. So that's something that's I'm ingesting that whole process. So I might talk to you offline about some stuff because I've just been poking at a few people who've written books, but learning that and just watching it, it is seeing whether you're self-published or working with a publisher, having various avenues. So I love that you mentioned that. Don't shun the other platforms to your point, but just know you know how you went in informed, like I mentioned, Dr. Will. You just know that said platform, which I haven't understanding of who you talk about, then it is they're gonna take their cut. Just like all those other, like we talked about, rented platforms are in that instance. They're gonna take their cut. But if it's giving you visibility, it's getting out there, it's higher volume, cool, they're doing what they need to do. But know that if it's on your website and it lives there, you're keeping the money. So which one? So you see, you can use both. You can use both in an instance. But which one do you think I would want to push more? The one on my website. Because you keep higher margins. Just makes more sense.
For sure, for sure. I remember once I remember when the publisher told me how many books I sold, and then I was doing the math like,
Yeah, that's not adding up.
"Oh, okay."
Yeah.
That's
You're like, "I know I did math and I do it well enough." Especially I tell people, there's a running joke like lawyers don't always do math, but I said, "But we know how to count our money." So it's like, but when you start to add things up, it's like that does not add up to what I thought it should say. So that right there should empower you, me, anybody else to say, "Hey, they're not a horrible option. They're just may not be the best one for me. So I'll push it over here and over here and over here." But the most energy should always go into your own, you all. So that's that rented versus own it, like land you own. You control it. You could decide. So just put more marketing dollars, more push, more visibility behind that because you're paying those other platforms. They already have that. Hence why they're taking their big chunk. They're going to push it to who they're pushing it to. Now you focus. They don't need your help over there. Go do yours and figure out how to create visibility on your platform. So anytime you do a speaking engagement, you leverage that. Have your books if you can. Send them to the website. Have that as a lead magnet on your social media or different places, wherever you can. Just push it, push it, push it. Visibility for people to go to your website because you have higher margins and you keep more.
yeah. So we can't go anywhere with AI without seeing AI, hearing about AI. I mean, I can't even cut on my TV without AI popping up somewhere. So it's changing everything. How can educators use AI as a way to open more doors for them as entrepreneurs?
I love this. Okay. I used to be one of those people until you adopted. I was like, ugh, I didn't fear it. I just was sort of like, what is this going on? But you all do not fear AI. Use it to amplify the work and impacts you're doing. All it does is streamline. Let's view it more as much as we can as a partner and another tool within your business. So when you view it like that, for you all as educators, it will help streamline and expedite your process so you can produce more and impact more lives. See how it just changed the narrative? Like, don't fear it. Like, take it to if there was a course you're going to create that course. Be cognizant when you create that course because I know you all, there's a trade off for anything in life. When you are using certain platforms, all that little language at the bottom that people don't really read, or when you click, we're all guilty, even lawyers are guilty of clicking sometimes because you're like, you're going to make me sign it anyway for me to get to make the purchase, whatever I'm doing. But know that, again, being informed with what you're trading off. Sometimes you all are using, when you're using AI, just know this. It's public knowledge, so I'm not bashing AI companies. You are trading. You're training that model. You're training them. So I'm taking my years of experience in there if you're using a platform that's not, and again, I don't want to say exact tiers. Every platform has different names, they call them. But if it's basically what is usually the enterprise or business level where you are paying for a license where they cannot use AI to train it. But short of you all, when you're using a free platform, the trade-off for using free is they're taking all that data and they're training the AI and they're using your intellectual property to make this thing quicker, faster, and smarter. So now that I've informed you about that, it may make sense to make the investment for the one where they're not using it to train AI. And then you can use it in the comfort of your office or your entity, wherever you are, to create that, to use AI to amplify your message and to expedite things. But know that if you're using it for free, they are using your intellectual property to train it to make it better and faster. And you don't own that part of that.
Well, what is the intersection between AI and IP, and who owns it? when AI is involved?
You know what? I'm gonna be honest with you and say what a lot of people are not saying. Because it's the Wild Wild West and it's still fairly new, the laws have not caught up to it. So, Dr. Will, I'm gonna give you an it depends answer for lawyers, which people hate. The laws haven't caught up to it. That's why we're seeing so many lawsuits right now. That is literally my answer. Because of what I just said. There are blurred lines in who owns what. You all are hearing that there are musicians, AI musicians that aren't living people. Who technically owns the copyright? Is it the person who created the AI or is it the person who purchased the license? You see how cloudy and murky that gets? We're still figuring out in our laws. And by the time the law catches up with this iteration, we would have moved on already to another type of AI. So I would just say proceed with caution as you do with anything else. Just know that there are trade offs. You may have to give away a little something to get a bigger gain. But right now, to answer your question fully, it is murky on who owns certain aspects of what when AI is involved. Now, if I would tell you the general rule of thumb when there's a copyright, if you can take something again, you take it out of your head and you create, yes, people are using AI to create a lie. You're creating a course with AI for my educators who are here. If you significantly or material, another term of art, which means significantly, alter it, make it your own, put your own sauce on it, I'm gonna argue. That's your IP. You see where I'm going with that? But if somebody just takes something verbatim, it's hard right now. Is it the person that created the AI software that owns it? Do you own it because you have that license that I mentioned that says you can't train the model? That part, right now, as we sit here today, laws are not speaking to that. They're trying to make them, enforce them, but government and policies and things is a slow grind. It's slower than the innovative process of AI coming out. So just proceed with caution again, you all, I'm saying, because right now the laws have not caught up with who owns something versus the example I gave. You manipulated so much of the thing that somebody trying to go up and say, "Oh, you plagiarize or own this," you can be like, "Yeah, right." Because you do it the way you do it, Dr. Will, and I do it the way I do it. Two very different ways, and we can both protect both of those bodies of work, if that makes sense.
I want to throw this out there too because so many entrepreneurs that I know are the faces of their company and the faces of their brand. I came across you because of YouTube recommending different podcasts, because of social media, and you are very much out front and center of everything that you are doing, whether it's here or in Africa. She's doing big things in Africa, y'all. And when people are that face, what should they be doing or how should they build their business when they are the face of their company, the brand of their company? What should they be looking for? What pitfalls should they avoid? How should they create everything to where this business is successful and can grow? And if they need to take that step back,
Yes.
the checks will still come in.
That is a question because that was a pain point for me for a long time. So when I say this is very personal, thank you. It is first of all, being clear on your vision and being clear on the people on your team. Can they help you carry it? Y'all, this is a very personal pain point. And as you grow in entrepreneurship, as much as you want, like your all your team or some of your team, people can't go with you because my visions, just as yours do. Like the more you're exposed to, they get bigger and bigger, and the machine is moving. It is moving faster, and it doesn't mean these aren't amazing human beings, but having the right people that can actually deliver so that you can keep going at your pace is key. Please. Investing in people is going to be one of the greatest investments in your company and your brand. Because it took me about 10 years to learn that, if I'm being very transparent. A little under 10 years. I can help people, build 7 to 8 figure businesses all the time. And it's like I wouldn't give myself the energy that's needed. Pour into yourself first. Educators, I'm telling you all, because you have roles, I have roles. We have the same kind of roles. Fix things, solve it, do whatever, take care of everybody else but yourself. Comes time for you, you're depleted. So I'm speaking to my educators. Carve out time each week. Like I have what I call CEO time. And I have, and my team knows, hey, y'all are great, but I need these hours. I need to think. I need to create. I need to ideate. We need to see, hey, I'm doing podcasts. Are we pushing this out? What wonderful people like you do we need to connect with? Things like that. I need that time. When I started taking that seriously years ago, everybody knows, oh, Monday's Amy CEO time. Please don't bother her. If I go missing, it's because I need to make sure the team gets paid, do all that, keep people empowered so I can go get on wonderful podcasts like this. I can go travel and live between the US and Nigeria. I can go do speaking engagements and do all of that. And the machine is still going because nothing is more stressful than you being the bottleneck of your company. I speak from a lot of experience. You don't want to be, and I didn't want to be. It's just because if I didn't have the right people, infrastructure, systems. So I want you all, like I said, I made enough mistakes for roomfuls of people. I want to help expedite your process. Get systems and processes in place. It can't live here. Have to document it. Get standard operating procedures written down. Record videos about it. That could teach somebody instead of you having to repeat the same thing 10,000 times. Get it documented, get systems, use software to help you. If I would have picked that up or known that earlier in my business, what needs to happen happens. But that became my ministry. That's why I help other business owners do that so well now, because I went through enough pain for people. So a lot of it is just getting your systems in place early. The earlier your people do that, educators, you all do that, the quicker you'll be able to scale.
Awesome. And you just mentioned CEO time. One of
Yeah.
the things that I do when I'm talking to educators, whether it be at my school district or in general, is for them to think like an entrepreneur, have that CEO mindset that you are a business of one. And I do that because I want them to take control of their lives, their careers, and their finances, and not just be, well, I don't want to be here. I don't like my job, but you stay there instead of taking that ownership of your life and making the decisions and just moving forward. Please speak to the need for educators to think of themselves with that mindset like a CEO and not just a content creator or a classroom teacher.
I love that. Yes, that drives the point home. We are all creators. We are all creatives, whether some label themselves as or not. When you create things, especially as educators, y'all are operate more as creators than you know. So just like you said, Dr. Will, it is saying, first of all, going back to what I was saying, adding value, knowing the value add. You all not in an arrogant way, but in a confident way, right? Like, hey, I am impacting this many people and operating in a spirit and a mindset of an abundance. I know people are like, why are people always talking about mindset? Because it has a lot to do with being a CEO. Can't you speak to that too, Dr. Will? If you're not feeling it that day, give yourself grace. But if you consistently beating yourself down and telling yourself how hard things are, or telling yourself you're not going to win, guess what you're going to believe? You're not going to win. Or if you're operating in scarcity or nothing comes to me, guess what's going to happen? Nothing's going to come to you. But if you're telling yourself like, hey, I'm going to be the world's best educator in this niche, or I'm going to speak on this panel here, they're going to pay me $50,000 to be a keynote. Guess what's going to eventually happen? Consciously and subconsciously, you're going to attract those opportunities. You're going to look for those things. You're going to make yourself be that person that people want to book that does that. Mindset. So that's why carving out that time, some of that time is CEO time can vary for me. Like it could be a lot of things, but in most cases, it could be me making sure the team is paid. Is there outstanding task on my end? It's also creativity. If I'm thinking of a new program or offer or something I want to offer through the law firm or through Creative Passport as that like community platform, it is reaching out to colleagues and friends. Somebody comes to your spirit, sometimes just texting them. Because sometimes you all text can open the door to a lot of things. Not transactional, but like, hey, you just crossed my mind, or somebody's birthday. Dr. Will, people love being thought about. I use my CEO time for that. Just the time to be like, my brain is clear before all the demands of life. And that's why I do it on a Monday. I do it on a Monday at a chunk of hours at the top of the day. So I could think most people use Mondays of like, oh, Monday's back. I'm excited about my Mondays because I built that time in. It's all in how you frame it. Meet with my team on Mondays. So we get our foundation solid that week. Or if things weren't the way we needed to be, we're going to reassess and make it better. It's a fresh start every time. You see mindset, CEO time. So if you're telling yourself, like you said, it's you and you. You have your team there to help support your vision, but it is your vision. God gave it to you. What are you doing to amplify it to go to the next level? That's on you. That's not on your team. Your team is to execute your vision. They're there to execute your vision. You have to come up. You're the visionary. So educators, start viewing yourselves as visionaries, as creators, as entrepreneurs that create things that the world wants to see. I promise you, that'll change your mindset. Like,
Wow, that's all right. People, our amazing guest has a goodie for us, for you listening to the podcast. Before we go, Amy, will you please tell the audience what you have blessed them with?
love it. This is my favorite part, the goodies. And thank you, Dr. Will, for the opportunity for us. So you all always hear me rant about, as Dr. Will mentioned, if you don't own it, you can't control it, right? So Honestly, what we're offering you all is check us out after this. Own it and scale it starter guide for you all. We created this with you all in mind because we want you to know that you are those entrepreneurs, CEOs, visionaries that we talked about. But you have to own it, to control it, to scale it, to bless the people you need to bless them with. So that's what we have for you all on the Creative Passport platform. We look forward to seeing all of you all join our community. But that's what we have for those of you all listening. We'll make sure we get that to you all, however we do it. I'm not going to, step on the toes of Dr. Will. His system is his system. But make sure you say you want that, that starter guide that we got for you all, because that is how it starts. We're not hiding anything back. So the stuff, when I was working with Earning Your Leisure and working all these people that I'm working with, how when we got started, you all, I can't be any less of who I am. I'm bringing what I do with people at a high level every day. We don't hold back. So that's what we're bringing to you all. We want you to have the frameworks around that. And then hopefully we'll see you in the Creative Passport community, but that's your freebie for today.
Awesome. Awesome. Amy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, people, you know how I do this. This podcast episode will be on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeart Radio, Simplecast, Stitcher, Spotify, and Audible. I need you to subscribe and to share with your network. And though I'm on all of these podcast platforms, I'm really trying to go on Apple Podcasts. So leave me some reviews, leave me some stars, because I'm trying to be found and I'm trying to get Jay-Z on the show because I want him to know that we're doing dope things around here. Again, I'd like to thank my guest, Amy Araefo, for coming on and dropping so many gems, and for you for checking out another episode of the Dr. Will Show. As always, people, invest in you. EDU.
Doctor